Welcome to China Manufacturing Decoded from Sofeast, the podcast where we take you through some of the major topics facing importers and manufacturers in China today. Hello everybody, thanks for joining us again on the podcast, China Manufacturing Decoded. You're listening to episode 76. I'm Adrian from Sofeast and I'm joined by our CEO, Renaud.
Hey, hi Adrian, and hi everybody.
Hi Renaud, how's it going?
Enjoying the quarantine. 7 more days to go.
Yeah, that's affecting everybody at the moment.
Yeah, everybody who moves around in this area has to go through it at one point. So it's, loss of freedom, but there's an end in sight, so it's not that bad.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, as ever, if we do have any updates about COVID restrictions going into Asia and whatever, we'll let you know. But other than you're quarantining at the moment to return, not too much on that. So episode 76 today. In the news recently, we've seen a lot about the right to repair. This is kind of it's not only a legal thing, it's sort of a movement, isn't it, amongst consumers? So I wanted to discuss with you right to repair and whether it's a headache or actually an opportunity for manufacturers. So first of all, could you take us through what the right to repair movement is, please, Renaud?
Sure. So when you let's take it from the basics. When you buy a relatively simple product, I don't know. You're farming, because we're going to talk about farmers later, because they're also involved in that. And you buy, I don't know, a simple fork to move the hay or something. The the wooden part breaks. You're just going to get another wooden part because it's extremely standard. You replace it, you put whatever, a nail back or something to hold it in place, and then you keep going. And it's a simple product. Now, the thing is, more and more products are complex, especially when they have electronics, right? So when there's electronic parts, you have a board that controls what, the functions. And then when that's down, or one of the components around it is down, it's a bit more complicated to repair. Okay. So a lot of people have been frustrated, and this is probably, they've been more and more frustrated over the years as their products became more complex, and actually the brands, the suppliers of these products have made it harder for consumers, for users, for business users, and so on, to repair the products by themselves, right? So you buy a washing machine and it breaks, and then if you really want to repair it, you try it maybe yourself, or you bring it to someone who is skilled and experienced in repairing home appliances, and then they look at it and they say, well, it's broken inside this module of the product, and if we try to open it up, just trying to open it would break it because it's with adhesive or something. It's not just something you can unscrew and rescrew. Or it's that's like this box, and we have to get the same one from the manufacturer, but then you have to order it directly from them, and that's the price, and maybe they no longer have stock or something. So in many cases, even if you try hard, you end up having to throw away your product, right? If it's out of warranty, of course. So if you have an issue that is within the warranty period and within the scope of the warranty, like you buy a smartphone and then the microphone no longer works after 6 months, and you did not put it in water or anything like that, you just make sure the warranty works, right? So that's not the issue. The issue is for things that are outside the scope of warranty, or for products that are already 4 years old, 10 years old. If you want to keep using them, what can you do? If you have a car, there's a lot of things you can change just by bringing it to the local garage, and they will do some repairs, right? So
Yeah.
that's the analogy that people have in mind. And then when they have these electronic products, and they find out that they actually cannot just bring it to a local garage, if I may say that, they feel that they're cheated. They feel that it's a basic human right. You purchase a product, and then you have the right to repair, right? That's why they call it the right to repair.
Yeah, I think it's got to the point where a lot of consumers, because products are so hard to repair when they're out of warranty, that it's almost created this throwaway culture where, of course, you're going to just buy a new washing machine and maybe recycle or just get rid of the old one. But in actual fact, this could be quite problematic for many reasons that we'll go into.
Oh, it's an enormous problem. Just in the EU, they say there's something like 10 million tons. Is it tons or cubic meters? I forget. An enormous amount of waste from electronic products every year. And this can only go up if we don't do anything, because more and more products have electronics inside. So obviously, it means a lot more materials have to be extracted and processed and shipped around. It's pretty bad for the environment, and it really encourages, as you say, the throwaway culture. Where you have people who buy relatively cheap products that are not expected to last very long, and whenever it breaks, it's like, okay, throw it away, buy a new one. And there's a lot of that in certain industries. I mean, if you go to a fast fashion apparel store, Forever 21, H&M, Zara, or Shein now on the internet, it's actually an enormous amount of waste right there, because people are going to wear it 2, 3, 4 times, maybe on average, and then it will end up in the landfill. So you're making to landfill, basically you're filling landfill up, right? So that's a culture that is not going to be tenable. That is not going to be sustainable in the long run. I mean, it's extremely unsustainable from an environmental perspective. So
absolutely,
there's many reasons why consumers, small businesses, and the government want to change that. I mentioned also farmers before, because in the US, farmers have been really, really upset. So a case in point in the US is John Deere. Well, tractors are, quite expensive, often many times more expensive than a typical car.
Oh yeah.
And they have elaborate electronics. And whenever some maintenance jobs have to be done, well, it has to be done, in one of the designated or authorized centers, right? Could be dealerships or could be simply repair centers. But and that means for some very isolated farmers, they have to go tens of miles or hundreds of miles away from their farm for that. It's just crazy, right? And they've been putting a lot of pressure also, and farmers, when they start to lobby for something, they are usually heard. So there's a lot of forces here. That's a little bit about the context, right? Why it's been why it has led to changes in regulations.
Yes, and those regulations you're talking about, this legislation, it's actually starting to come in now in the US, for example, but also in Europe in particular. I think the new right to repair legislation, if I'm correct, is coming in March 2022.
Yeah, in the EU, yes.
Yeah.
So basically, they wanted to make repairs easier and cheaper, and make it really much easier to bring the not defective, but a product that failed, that stopped working, bring it to a local repair center, or even for people who want to do it themselves, just to do it themselves when that makes sense. Okay, just make it easier for that. And of course, as we said, they want to reduce the amount of electronic waste. They want also more information. They want consumers to be better aware of the expected lifetime of the products and how easy it is to repair and things like that. And one of the EU countries, France, even went further. They passed a law. So this is not all across the EU. This is just in France. In addition to that new EU, it's not a directive. It might be what they call a regulation. I don't remember. Anyway, all the EU member states have to pass laws based on that. But France went further, and actually is going to request very soon that all the suppliers in certain categories of products have to label their products based on how easy it is to design.
Yes.
With a score, right?
To repair.
So they're trying to go further than that. Yeah, basically, how easy is it to repair, right?
Yeah, my understanding of the French sort of index that they're using, it's a grade of 1 to 10 appears on the labels of, common consumer electronics, and calculated based on how easy it is to disassemble, the access to information repair, price and availability of spare parts. And also, in addition to that, my understanding is that the British government is also planning to bring the same kind of thing in very, very soon, maybe at the beginning of 2022.
They're not requiring all the same thing as the EU, but they're also moving forward with that. Correct. Yeah. And the US is interesting. There's an association called repair.org. It's basically an association of repairmen in the US that went state by state for local level to pass federal laws on that. So things are also in the US, and it's, as always, it's not exactly aligned, of course, but the trend is clear. If you want to make sure you're, you want to sell your products, and you're appealing to consumers and so on, then you have to make it easy to repair your products.
Yeah. So just to let me give some sort of quote here. So it's manufacturers of washing machines, dishwashers, refrigerators, and TVs or monitors will have to ensure that components are replaceable with common tools. Instruction manuals must be accessible to specialist companies, and producers must supply spare parts within 15 days and make them available for 10 years. So that's this is the direction we're going in, right?
Right, exactly. Yes. So, for example, if you bought a MacBook Pro or an iPhone or something like this from Apple, then you until now, and let's say you're in China or in a place where this doesn't apply, if you want it to be repaired, you can't just open it up and so on. They make it harder, and there's various strategies to make that harder. A lot of manufacturers use their own kinds of screws, for example, just to make it harder for any repair center to open their products up. If you want to repair some of the components, some people do it themselves with basically counterfeit components. And of course, Apple frowns on that, and they say if you do that, then you have some other problem and it's still within warranty, we will not honor the warranty, and so on and so forth. Basically, they don't want people to mess up with their products or to hack their products. And this has been a pretty consistent policy for that company. It's not the only one, but it's the prominent hardware manufacturer in electronics. So let's pick on them. They always resisted any kind of hacking of their products. They want to have very, very high control over the experience. That their products provide to their users. Okay, and in some cases, it's not that simple. There are cases where, how do I say, you can have a design that makes the product not easy to repair, but that makes it more durable, more reliable, right? So, for example, if you take my laptop here,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to get the battery out, I need to go and do, unscrew and separate the two parts of the casing, and then it goes out with a wool module, including the keyboard and things like that, right? So not easy to repair, not very friendly to repairmen. However, if it were easy to remove the battery, then just the fact that people put the battery, remove it, put the battery, remove it, just that in itself is more likely to cause the need for repair. Whenever you have moving parts, the wool product is not as sturdy. The wool thing is not as durable. It will get broken more easily when there are shocks. It will be more susceptible to water penetrating the casing. There's a lot of things like this. So there's a little bit of a contradiction here, and that's something that I did not see it very clearly addressed in the EU regulation. They focus very much on the right to repair, and not so much. I mean, they do mention that consumers should have some information about how durable the product is expected to be and so on. But there's a little bit of a contradiction here, and I'm not exactly sure how that will play out. But for certain applications, I would prefer to go for a product that is really not likely to fail, within the expected lifetime. So let's say you buy a laptop and there's a very, very high chance that it will still be working after 4 years. Okay, then in that case, I don't really care about being able to repair it, right?
Yes.
Whereas, on that model, in 20% of cases, there has to be something done within the first 2 years. Oh, okay, then the design is not not that good. It doesn't resist stresses very well. Then in that case, maybe I want it to be very easy to open it up without breaking anything, and to order the spare parts. And my local repair guy should have the user manual, but not just that, but also the instructions that are used to do the repairs, and they should be able to order the spare parts to do the job. And that's what Apple is going to do in Europe, for example. They're going to work with a number of independent repair shops to do that, right? But are they going to fundamentally change the way they design their products? I'm not sure. This remains to be seen, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Apple's a good example because they are one of the, let's use the word, culprits of companies that have made items hard to repair. But on the other hand, as you say, there's a different way to look at them, because in general, and I'm sure somebody listening who's had a bad experience with Apple will be thinking no, and shaking their head. But in general, I would say that Apple products are reasonably durable by the standards of laptops and phones and other consumer electronics.
Right, and their CEO made it very clear. When people say, why is an iPhone more expensive than an Android phone? And you say, well, look at these statistics. I don't know where he pulled that out, but an iPhone can be used for 3 or 4 years if you want, but an Android device, people turn over faster. So actually, the total budget might be lower for an iPhone.
Yeah.
And you have fewer issues, much less frustration and things like that. But why is that? Because we control the experience much better. So that's a philosophy, right? You can be backed by numbers, but on the other side, you can also say, hey, I'm an individual buyer. I do what I want, and I should be able to, if I break my screen, I just change the screen. If the battery is starting to lag a bit, then I just change the battery, and so on. And you were asking at the start of the episode, is this an opportunity? Well, yeah. Some companies have been developing fully modular laptops and smartphones. Now, I don't remember. One of them is already on the market, and I forget the name.
Yeah, is it called Free Phone or something? Something like that. I don't know.
It could be, and soon we'll have fully modular smartphones and laptops. And so the laptop, if you say, well, I want more memory, boom, boom, it will be easy to buy, extra memory cards and things like that. Oh, I want a faster processor, then you know where to go to remove that, maybe with a few other components, not just one maybe, but you can change that whole sub-assembly, that whole module of the product, and you keep all the rest. And maybe the casing and the screen, you keep using them for 8 years, 10 years maybe, right? Or the keyboard, the keys are getting, starting to be a bit tired. Okay, I get a new one. Now, is that going to make a very sturdy kind of laptop? I'm not sure, right? But probably not as sturdy as a MacBook Pro from Apple. But it's another philosophy, and it's good that people have that kind of flexibility. If all of a sudden, okay, in 1 or 2 years, there's a new port, a new whatever, like USB-C, Thunderbolt, all these kind of things, you have a new one that's starting to get some traction, and for the applications that you're going after, you really need it. Okay, then that should be easy. Whereas if you have invested in an expensive laptop from, for example, Apple, well, what you're going to do, you're going to have to buy one more dongle, right?
And we've all been there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, what do you do with all your dongles? After 10 years of buying dongles, you just have them in your drawers and you don't know what to do with it, right? So there's pros and cons. From what I see, the regulators are going, they want to push the pendulum a little bit more to make it more modular if possible, give more information about the expected lifetime and things like that, and make it much easier to repair. And, again, the fact that Apple is going to work with local resellers, give them all the instructions and access to spare parts, I think that's a positive for consumers.
And it's a good compromise.
Yeah, and is that going to be, to change their design philosophy? Maybe. It's always design. Designers always have to go for trade-offs, but maybe they will have one model of phone and one model of laptop that will go much more in the direction of easy repairability. Right? And maybe the rest will remain the same. So they give the option, or maybe they will try to, I don't know, but I think they've been thinking about that. They've been, and a lot of brands, all the major brands, of course, have taken note. And is that a good thing? Well, it's one more thing that they have to design for, right? They obviously had to design for cost, had to design for quality, had to design for reliability, because these really have a direct impact on their cost. And, they also have to design for repairability. That is going to impact their trade-offs. And overall, is that a good thing? Probably, yeah. Does it make it harder for a startup to have a great product? Maybe, but again, it does open some opportunities, right? A new startup that is developing an electronic product, want to put on the market, we'll have to take a few steps to make it easy for independent repair centers, maybe to get on their website and buy some parts or things like that. They might have to carry a little bit of stock and so on. I don't know for very small companies how that will play out. Okay. But if you need to have the parts within 15 days, basically they will have to have some stock in the same area as their market. That might be a small extra expense that they have to incur, but maybe very small companies are under the radar for now. And I guess that's what's going to happen. So I would say overall it's a positive thing, with the score that's going to be put on every product in certain categories in France. Well, some products will get a boost. It will show will give them a better image compared to their competition. So, absolutely, is that an opportunity? I would say yes.
Yeah, that's good for the consumer. I suppose the majority of consumers won't pay a lot of attention to it, but the people that are interested, they're given that guidance that they need. From a product design perspective, I mean, you've said many, many times in different episodes and in different written content that often selecting standard parts over custom parts is quite beneficial. And in this case, I can see how if you've chosen to try to focus on standard parts, that also plays well into the whole, maintainability aspect.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the more custom parts you have in your product, the harder it is for repairmen to get their hands on the right part to replace a broken part, for example. So that definitely helps both with reliability and with repairability. There's no doubt. When it comes to reliability, I mean, another thing that the regulators want to discourage is, there's this widespread belief that certain brands design their products so that they fade after 2 years. Right? They say, okay, warranty is 2 years, and then 2 years plus 6 months is going to break. Obviously, it's not that simple. It's not like written in the code, after X days after it's been activated first, then auto-destruct or something like that. But this did happen, and it was documented in the 60s, in the 70s. Some manufacturers were playing with that. They would say, for example, okay, this mechanical part here is going to be used on average 3 times a day, and we have a warranty of 1 year. And because at the time, warranties tended to be shorter. And after that many cycles that correspond to roughly 2 years, let's make it so that 50% or 70% of them have already broken by the 2-year mark. And at the same time, at the 1-year mark, only 1 or 2% should have failed, right? So how to design that? So you use, for example, some parts made of ferrous material that start to show fatigue after a certain number of cycles, and then you that's just an example, but there are many others. And then you test it. You replicate the intended usage, and yes, this was an application of reliability engineering. It's not very glorious.
No.
But the same thing. So a lot of brands have been accused of that, right? Of course, Apple, when they throttled some of their older phone models, and then they say, well, there's a reason for that. Is because the batteries, the older versions of the batteries that they have cannot take too much. Otherwise, there might be a sudden failure and things like that. And then they did not resolve it as well as they could. So of course, a lot of people are still blaming them for that. And there's there's stories like this, but a
Yeah.
lot of suspicions more than proofs, because it's not that easy to prove.
You're talking about planned obsolescence. I mean, in a
Yeah,
way, that's
exactly.
good.
Yes, yes.
That's good for brands as long as you can get away with it.
And as long as your reputation doesn't take a hit,
Mm.
which is why it's much less common now. Big companies are not very tempted to play that game.
Yeah.
However, they do some, they use the findings of their reliability testing to see what parts maybe are more robust than they need to be, right? So I was reading the book about by the founder of Dyson, the vacuum cleaner company,
Mm-hmm.
and then he explains that they use the findings of their reliability tests to see what parts are actually, maybe for example plastic parts are a bit too thick, and they even their plastic suppliers say no, this should be 3 mm, a part of the housing, for example, this should be 3 mm thick, and they say no, it should be thinner. And they did some tests and so on, and they said, yeah, look, it's still pretty strong. No need to be that thick. And this way they save cost, and they also save a lot of materials, and that's good for the environment. So you really wanted to know, the limits of your product, right?
Mm.
And it's all about trade-offs when you design something. What do you optimize it for, right? My worry is that designers can optimize for a few parameters, but if you give them 20 parameters to optimize for, it has to be lightweight, and it has to look good, and it has to be easy to repair, and it should not have more than 10 components, and so on and so on and so forth. It all gets washed down, and in the end, you have a pretty bad design, right? So is this going to be a priority? Let's see. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, very, very, very interesting points there. And one thing's for sure, the right to repair, it's not going away. This is starting to gather a lot of pace with government, but also with consumers. So it's important to, be aware of what's going on, especially if you are developing a new product.
Yes, it is not going away. I think it's a long-term trend, and product designers have to take it into account, that's for sure.
Okay, great. Again, as ever, we've mentioned a few different resources during the episode. I will link to those. One in particular, which is good, you created a video with Andrew Amanovin recently about design for reliability and design for maintenance. So that's a particularly good video to go and watch. So I will link to that in the show notes as well. But yeah, that brings us to the end, Renaud. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. All right. See you next time.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast, brought to you by the Sofeast Group. We're on a mission to provide you with everything you need to manufacture effectively in Asia. That's everything from inspections, auditing, new product development support, contract manufacturing, 3PL warehousing and fulfillment, and much, much more across Asia's key manufacturing areas. Visit us at sofeast.com to learn more and get help. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, please do rate, review and share, because it will really help others discover us too. See you next time.